Welcome to CCnDoc Talk. I'm CC.
I'm Doc.
And today's topic, are you ready for this one?
No.
All right.
You're scaring me. You like to go deep.
Well, guess
All
what?
right.
Today we're going deep.
Okay.
So put on your goggles and your snorkel, sister.
Okay.
So today's topic is unexpected, unintended advocates and unintended activists. So I want to talk about, so you and I have kind of been thrown into unintended advocacy and by way of colorectal cancer, right? So I went through the cancer journey and ultimately became an advocate for colorectal cancer for lots of reasons.
Yeah, some people go through cancer and they just want it to go back to whatever normal is.
And there's never a normal
It never
after
goes
cancer.
back to what it was, but yes.
But for a lot of
But
reasons,
others start to speak out, and you went down that path. Okay.
I did because, for a lot of reasons, stigma, wanting to inform people.
Everybody talks about the boobies. Nobody talks about the butt.
That's true.
Sorry.
Happening more and more and more with people and people younger and younger. And then,
wait, and you got reinforced for that because right away we had some coworkers who were young who went and got checked, and they said if you would have come in 5 years from now, this would be a different story. I mean, like 20 some polyps that were removed, and they wouldn't have gone and got checked had you not been an advocate.
Had I not started
have
talking
you
about
not
it.
started talking about
and
it.
same with some people with Lars who didn't even know what that was until I started talking about lower anterior resection syndrome. It's not kind of an after effect. So okay, so
unintended, right? All of a sudden.
Unintended advocacy.
Yep.
And now unintended activism. So you and I have historically, and some of it was because of your job in corporate America, but also other reasons because we have friends from all walks of life. We have always kind of walked a very fine line, kind of a teeter-totter.
We didn't rock the boat much.
And so especially like social media publicly, even probably in some conversations, haven't been as vocal as we maybe should have been about.
We're vocal now.
We are. So that's what I want to talk about. And I, because we've talked about this before, I definitely lean more that direction because I have that justice perspective and things piss me off. And, I hate it when I see injustice and people lack of consideration and lack of respect and hate and, just blame and lack of rights and the whole 9 yards. Yeah. But you've always been much more tempered. And all of a sudden with this last election and now the new regime.
Right now I'm just encouraging you to do it.
No. She is doing that. She's like, you go, girl.
I'm like, whatever you want to put out.
And before she used to be like, are you sure?
I'm like, oh, really? You're gonna put that out there? And now I'm like, whatever you put out, I'll stand behind it. But now I'm. And
I want to know, because I think it's important for people to know what makes somebody who's less apt to do that. And honestly, I still had the balance because of optics, right? And some other reasons, and you were in corporate America. But I still had the more impetus and the drive for that internally, but you're different. And so what makes somebody like you then go, okay, enough's enough. It's time to start speaking up. And we are speaking of, to be clear, we are speaking of the current political hellscape.
I think, it's just getting poked too many times. And now to the point that it affects too many things. It's become very personal, right? And usually people don't get involved or don't speak up until it hits their backyard. Wait till you hear how many people are going to speak up if they ever lose Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security or veterans' rights. All of a sudden, boy, there's going to be a lot of people speaking up, right?
Veterans
that haven't spoke up before. And there are things that are now impacting us directly that
we're
watching.
And they always have, but never as bad or more blatant than they have now.
It's blatant. And being quiet about it is not the way to be right now, because quiet all of a sudden is like acceptance or just letting them.
It's like pretending that all this isn't happening.
It's like saying, hey, whatever you're doing, it's fine, and we'll live with it or whatever. But it's not. It's
literally
not
took
fine.
Hitler 53 days. People were 3 weeks in.
Yeah. Yeah, we're only at 21 days, So it's not fine right now. And the amount of rights that they're going after, whether it's for diversity and equity and inclusion, and
which is such a scapegoat.
It is. Oh my gosh! And we can get on to scapegoat
and trans rights. We have a lot of
LGBTQ rights, marriage rights.
They're going after same-sex marriage.
So I mean, there's a lot of things.
Which is
and then healthcare. I mean, and healthcare is another big one.
And
that
cancer funding research has been
cancer funding research that has been, and then also, I mean, like, it, like now pre-existing conditions could be something that
Because
were
the ACA is
because
on
of
the
the
chopping block.
ACA. So there are so many things.
Can you say Project 2025?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Did you say that out loud?
I did.
See, and I encourage you. Whatever you need to say, I'm behind you. Way behind.
I think more people need to read it, but you know, there's a cheat sheet. I'm happy to provide that.
Well, and how we're processing this is differently because you get riled and then start putting stuff out there, and I'm like, all right, whatever. And I get riled, but behind the scenes, I'm like researching, where are we moving next? And
Right.
so all of a sudden, it
I'm
comes as
getting
a
all the-
surprise.
I'm getting
It's
all
like,
the data and information about why we should be moving, and you're then
and
going
I'm
out
like,
and
well,
doing
I mean,
it. We make a great
if you're gonna get riled and have this anger, to me, anger is a motivator, right? And so you can't just be angry and then sit and do nothing. We can do our homework. So what would we do for medical? What would we do if we lose marriage rights? And at least do the homework
again if we lose marriage rights again. Even
So
though they were guaranteed
what
by
does
the
that-
Respective Marriage Act, but
Yeah.
nothing seems to be.
See, you
sacred
know all the
anymore.
detail and all that.
Oh yeah,
So
I'm dangerously well informed.
that's true.
Yes.
So to me, it's like, okay, if you're going to get angry, then get angry and then use it as what's the action you're going to do. So the action is we're now speaking up. The action is now we're putting together plans. We're looking at what are our options for a variety of things. It's just being aware in different ways than we've ever been before.
Right. And yet, we don't want to come across as angry all the time. Like, so if social media is our main form of communication with people, with our followers, we're not intending to come across angry all the time, but it is important to us to share real facts with people who may never see them. And so while it may seem to you like we're just pissed off and ready to burn it all down,
oh my gosh,
there's a real need to share factual information because I trust because I research multiple different sources before I put out information. But also I think it's it does seem a little weird, right? Like half of our day is light and half of our day is dark because we have a deadline for when we stop talking about this stuff during the day.
That's one of the things for dealing with this.
So we still do happy posts, but we also do the what the fuck is happening posts. And it seems like this super weird bipolar type situation. But honestly, in some ways, I think that's so indicative of what our whole life is like right now. It just seems very,
you poke the
black
lion.
or white.
You poke the lioness in us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely. Like it's very black or white.
Yeah.
It's like one way, it's like, it's either bad. We hear like bad news or we find some good in it.
And gratitude. We go to gratitude and
I'm rambling, but
yeah, I mean, and that's it. I mean, you have to get your body to settle down. It can't just be angry all day, every day.
And yet it's hard.
Because
I think we need to acknowledge, like we see you, we hear you, we are you.
But we stop all intake or discussion of the news stuff.
It doesn't go away for me. It's still swirling around in my head, but we do have a deadline.
But that way, when we enter the room and see each other, it's not immediately like, and then it stirs it in both of us. It's like, no, we can go back to it. So anyway.
So I want to get back to
and then
what
gratitude.
I don't even know that we actually we may have had one or two conversations, but I really want to get to the crux of like, what made us this time go? Like we even endorsed a candidate this time, which we have not done in the past.
I think again,
what made us go, this is it.
Right. I think I've already said you've poked the lioness and you've poked us to the point that it's the level of fear because of the impact that it could have, not just to us, but to so many people.
Because the stakes are significantly higher this time.
The stakes are higher.
In case in point.
The impact is greater. The stakes are higher. It's like when you're surfing, when you're just doing that little tiny baby wave, but if you're on a Maverick, you know what?
Well, because it's
higher stakes.
There's a lot more behind a lot of it this time too. When we didn't have marriage rights before 2015, it was a pain in the ass. It was navigable. It was irritating. But now there's like hate and venom behind it.
The hate has been unleashed in the country, so our safety is in jeopardy. In terms of marriage rights are in jeopardy.
We're a little older, so we're concerned about our health and
healthcare and pre-existing conditions. And the ACA there's so many things. Again, I mean, we're on this Maverick, and you better be precise because,
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to tumble on this.
So what do we want like our followers to know about this, the information that we're sharing, and why we are choosing to do that when, some people right now literally in our situation would be crawling under a rock and try to be as far under the radar as they possibly can?
I think, okay, I'm gonna take this, and I don't want it to take up too much time, but I think if you're sitting there going, I don't see why this is a problem, well, then you better take a look at your family and friends out there, because and you are on a some completely different
And
plane.
bless you if
And
you could
bless
be
you
that
that
ignorant.
it's
We
that
don't
you're
have the
thinking that this
luxury
is
of
all
ignorance.
goodness and light right now, because and if you aren't the one that's seeing the goodness and light right now, then to reach out one another, to find a community, because there are a lot of people out there who are at a deep level. They're angry, they're afraid,
Well, and some of them are truly at a breaking point.
and at a breaking point,
And they have very legitimate fears. Like we have trans
and
friends.
they don't know who to talk to. They don't
Right.
know where to go. And so if you're not the one to lend a hand, then maybe the person who is feeling that, to find other people out there that they can. There's communities out there. There's people that you could talk to, right? Find your people.
Well,
Find your people.
find your people. And I would definitely say, if you have even a half an ounce of hesitation or reservation about what's happening right now, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not sure this is what I voted for, then, start paying attention. Start actually looking
What are
outside.
some news sources that you go
Start
to?
looking outside Fox News. So I follow Substack is a great source. Mainstream media is not reporting a lot of this because now they're frightened.
Well, it's
And
also a dog and pony show. It's all for the camera.
there's a lot of that too. And so, we know there's the left and there's the right. I tend to read multiple sources and then make my own decisions. So like I'm following Dan Rather Steady on Substack. I'm following The Contrarian on Substack. We pay attention to Heather Cox Richardson. She's an historian. I know she checks her facts. I pay attention to, old school journalists like Katie Kirk. And again, Dan Rather, he was an alumni at my college. And then on Politics Girl on YouTube, and also Decoding Fox News on YouTube. I think that they're also on Instagram. But,
just that list is exhausting me, by the way.
Well, and there are more. And then for trans-specific news, it's Aaron Reed with Aaron in the Morning. And because we do have trans friends, we've heard rumors that passports aren't getting sent back. And, in our minds, we're like, that's a slippery slope. Might be the first group, then who's the next group? What part of the target are you in? Are you in the bullseye? Are you in one of the outer rings? And even if you don't think that you're in the target, again, like you mentioned, like veterans, most veterans probably don't think they're in the target zone. But if you read Project 2025, veterans benefits are in the target zone. And so, get yourself educated. If you have an ounce of doubt, stop dismissing that all of this is going to be okay, because it's not. And we can't rely on the people that we used to rely on to take care of it all and to make it all go away for us. Because in case you haven't noticed, they're kind of trying, but it ain't working because we need a new playbook.
Well, and there's so much damage done. The hate is released. I mean, it's just
right.
It's so
And purposely, there's a lot going on right now because they really want it to be like, it literally is the abuser narcissist playbook. They want us to drink through a fire hose. So then when they finally back off, even the tiniest bit, and you go, then we're like, oh, what a relief. It's not so bad, but it's still really freaking bad. Yeah. And so, really just, if you could get to a place where you're willing to see a different perspective,
right?
Ours, for instance, or somebody else's, don't care.
Well, people of color right now,
of
people that are, with immigrants or married
people with disabilities.
I mean, there's so many people impacted by this.
Right. Absolutely.
And again, bless your heart if you're not impacted by this, because you're one of the few, or some of the few.
And kids, because that's the one thing that America does seem to care about is
kids. They stop Meals on Wheels. I mean, old people are impacted by this. This is huge.
It's huge. Poke.
But they're using a pitchfork right now.
So anyway, I guess the answer to why we've now kind of moved in the direction of speaking out, which we in the past have rarely done, is because we kind of don't feel like we have a choice.
The stakes are higher.
The stakes are high, and they affect people that we know and love. They affect us personally, and even though other people that we know and love don't see it, we see how it's ultimately going to affect them too. Yeah. And I'm a little psychic, so So that is
And you
why
you have scary intuition.
we have
so
moved more into the realm of the activism and sharing information.
Use your
And
voice.
so I do want to let you know that most of what I share, I have fact checked. And I guess I'll leave it
And
at
thank
that.
you for your time there. Thank you all. Have a blessed day. Stay safe, stay happy, find gratitude, find joy, and move those emotions through if you're going through the
And find a way
grief
to
of what's
balance
happening
and
here.
limit your exposure, but still be informed, because being informed is still super
It's
important,
important right
for
now.
everybody.